Barcelona é uma cidade muito cosmopolita, tem até bolsa de valores de whisky. Dá para imaginar que esse produto chega a valores milionários. Eu vou mostrar um pouquinho desse universo para você agora. Hey Jacob!
Welcome!
Great to see you, man!
You as well.
How are you?
Coming in.
Great! Let's talk a little bit about this business.
So, welcome to our office.
This world?
So this is Braeburn Whisky. This is our office. This is our boardroom. This is where the big deals get negotiated. We tend to just drink a lot of whiskey. That's really what happens here. We sit down, we sort of say we're doing business, but mainly we're just drinking a lot of whiskey.
O Jacob está me recebendo para mostrar e contar um pouquinho sobre esse stock market de whisky. Que é isso? What is that?
So, if you can imagine, we have thousands of casks of whiskey, and people buy these casks when they're quite young and keep them as they age, and as they age, they become more valuable. Right now in our industry, we have a shortage of whiskey. There's not enough whiskey being made by Scotland to satisfy everybody's demand for whiskey. So, as a result of that, the whiskey is becoming rarer and rarer, and it increases in value. And then we sell it for them back into the market, and they obviously benefit from the increased value of the whiskey.
And who are the people that buy those whiskeys?
In the past, it would have been people within the industry that would buy whiskey and keep it and then sell it. But now, everybody can invest in whiskey.
And the prices are different, right?
If you sort of buy a young cask of whiskey right now, you're probably paying about £3,000. If you want to buy a 30-year-old sherry butt from the Macallan distillery, you'll probably pay £1 million.
Oh my God.
We have a Macallan cask here. Unfortunately, no whiskey inside, but the whiskey from this was from 1988. It was £500,000 today. In 1988, that was probably about £500.
O Jacob estava explicando sobre a valorização do whisky. Ele pode ganhar muito preço depois de anos que fica guardado. Por exemplo, essa barrica aqui, em 1988, ela valia mais ou menos 500 libras, ou seja, uns R$3.000. E hoje ela vale cerca de 3 milhões de reais. É muito grande a valorização por conta de um produto que ficou guardado.
Recently a record, there was a world record. It was a cask from an Islay distillery called Ardbeg. It was a cask from 1975, which was sold for 17 million.
17 million
just for the one cask.
102 milhões de reais. 102 milhões de reais. É o preço de uma fazenda no Pantanal. Muito caro. What are the risks of this market?
Well, I suppose the main risk is that nobody wants to drink whiskey anymore.
I think that's not going to happen.
No, we don't think so either. I mean, now if you look at whiskey consumption around the world, it's just growing and growing and growing and growing. And more people obviously want to drink single malt whiskey, whereas you go back 30 years, a lot of people drank blended whiskey, Johnny Walker, but now more people are drinking single malts.
The single malt, what is specifically is that?
When we produce whiskey, it's made essentially from barley and water, fermented barley and water, which is subsequently distilled, but the malt comes from the barley. So a single malt is essentially a malt, a whiskey that's made from malted barley and is produced in one distillery. And it's all of the same year, so they call it a single malt, whereas if you look at Johnny Walker or something, that's a blend of different whiskies, both malt and grain.
And how long these single malt whiskies in general get stocked?
The law in Scotland is that the whiskey has to be in an oak barrel for 3 years as a minimum.
Okay.
And then we leave it longer so it can sort of take some of the flavors that come from the wood.
I know that there are wines that are super expensive, but sometimes when you buy it and open, they are not good. Whiskey also happens that problem.
When it's bottled, then unlike wine, there's no change, that's it. Once it's in the bottle, the whiskey remains the same, it never changes.
What do you have here for us?
Got 3 whiskies here for you from 3 different regions. We'll start with a favourite of mine, Glenelg, Speyside. This is a 12-year-old.
Wow.
Let's pour it and we'll have a look at it in the glass. But if we have a look here, the colour, you know, you've got this dark amber colour. This comes from the sherry cask.
Momento food safaris. Wow.
With the smell, what we're always looking to do is evoke a memory.
A flavor that reminds me a lot old recipes from the house.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm afraid I will get in love with whiskey.
And then we have something here from Campbelltown. Campbelltown's a very interesting region. Before Prohibition, one of the richest areas in the world. There was 37 distilleries. Prohibition came. They ran out of coal to fuel the stills, and they went from 37 distilleries to 1. Now, Campbelltown is recognised as a whiskey producing region again. This again is sherry, but it's Oloroso sherry.
And the cherry probably came from the south of Spain.
Absolutely.
Okay. É aroma totalmente diferente e realmente lembra o seco de um cherry, né? Um fino de Jerez, né? E vamos ver em boca então. Ele tem uma pegada do fino de Jerez, que é o vinho que é feito no sul da Espanha, na região da Andaluzia, e a barrica que produz esse whisky veio dessa região. Um whisky que ficou 18 anos guardado. Dá para imaginar o que pode ter de interação entre a bebida e as barricas. Very incredible.
One other little observation, you'll see here that the alcohol level is 46.
Okay.
The legal, it has to be more than 40 or it's not whiskey. So this is 46 is a nice strength.
Okay.
This is Kalila,
okay.
from Islay, which is a small
Scotland.
island, yes, just off the west coast. Islay didn't have any railways, so they continued to use this very old method of heating the stills and heating the barley, which is to use peat. It's just old forest.
Old forest.
Old forest that's now soil. They take bricks, essentially,
Okay.
like this, from the ground. They dry them, and then when they're producing heat for the distillery, for the stills and for the malting, they put this fuel. It burns, but you get a lot of smoke from it as well.
Então esse whisky ele tem uma nota de defumação à base desse tijolo feito dessa terra escocesa. Esse whisky ele tem uma nota de aroma defumado que lembra o mezcal, que é um tipo de bebida destilada do México, também feita com defumação. Você sente o aroma do mar, o aroma de algas marinhas, por conta do terroir de onde é produzido essa bebida.
And then this colour,
Fantástico.
sort of fantastic colour, sort of again, this
Really
sort of light.
travel in the senses. Saúde.
Saúde, Sanjivar.
Uau, what a bomb. Incredible. Para você degustar um destilado, é importante você não aerar a boca, porque como a graduação alcoólica é muito alta, para você provar assim, o primeiro zip tem que ser sem oxigênio, senão você tosse. É um dos graves problemas quando a gente vai tomar destilados, fazer uma degustação. Esse whisky é realmente espetacular. Estou muito feliz que nós somos a primeira equipe de TV a gravar aqui nessa empresa que trabalha com whiskies muito especiais. Jacob, muito obrigado. Thank you very much for this wonderful experience.
More than welcome, Sanjivar.